Good evening, everyone. Good evening, my Facebook friends. Welcome again to another Tuesday night's Thoughts and Talk with Coach Wendy Hazel. I am Coach Wendy, and I am a master life transformation coach. I coach women in particular who are dealing with hurting relationships and the effects of those hurting relationships, who are dealing with the hangover from the trauma of those relationships. Okay. And so, welcome again. Come on in if you're here for the first time. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm happy to have you. Let me just be sure I'm live. Yes. Welcome, and I'm happy to have you. Awesome. Awesome. If you're here, just drop me a note, a message, or something in the comments to say good night, say hi, so I know you're here, so I can appreciate you. I just welcome you. I appreciate everyone who stops by. And there's a bit of delay there. And if you are watching this on the replay, maybe on my YouTube channel, if you're on my YouTube channel, you're watching this on the replay, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. Like, if you like what I say or what I share resonates with you, I invite you to like the video. And even here on Facebook, like it, because the way algorithms work, when you like the videos, they show it to more similar people. So in this case, more women would see and the videos and hear the content. And my heart is that by hearing what I have to say, that persons will turn their lives around, lives will be transformed, lives will be saved as well. Some persons lose their lives in some of these situations. That women will find, you'll find your inner peace. One of the things you're robbed of is inner peace when you're dealing with toxic, abusive, narcissistic, hurting relationships. Inner peace, it's so much turmoil, and you just long for peace. You long for peace. If you know what I'm talking about and you feel safe, put a emoji, drop an emoji in the comments to me, right? You'll also learn how to, working with me, I help women to reconnect with yourself, because you lose yourself by giving and giving and giving and trying to make things better, and you're trying to make everybody else happy. You're trying to keep the peace. You're trying to keep the peace so that you can hoping to have peace, but you still don't find peace, right? As a believer, I'm a follower of Christ. I'm a Christian follower of Christ, believer. I believe the Holy Spirit is there to guide us and to help us, right? The Lord has given us the Holy Spirit to do that. And so in the midst of it, I believe that true peace only comes when we reconnect in that relationship with God through Christ. And we have the righteousness of Christ, the righteousness of God on us, right? That's when we really find true peace, a peace, an inner peace that is really God's peace given to us, rather than us just trying to keep the place quiet, right? We can keep the house quiet, we can keep the environment quiet so much and no more. The environment could be quiet, but we still not at peace and at rest on the inside of us. Okay, so working with me, I help women to get back to that place, learning, different strategies and tips and things like how to deal with toxic and hurting relationships. How do you deal with yourself? We can only control ourselves. We can't control other people. Other people will choose to do what they want to do. Okay, they will choose to treat us and treat people, not just us, treat people in the ways they want to treat them, right? And we cannot control that. We cannot tell another person what they should do, shouldn't do. That is not right. But we can take care of ourselves, and we can learn how to set boundaries, and we can learn how to communicate our boundaries. Okay. So that is what I do. I work with women, helping them to do that, helping you to strengthen their faith in God, and for some persons to reconnect with God again. Okay. So good night. Good night. Welcome on in. Hi. Good night. Hi, Sharon Adele. I'm seeing you guys. Hi, Francine. Hi. Welcome. Happy to have you. Happy to have you. I was just talking there about helping women to learn about emotions. And this last week, I had a 3-day challenge with about, I think it was 16 women, 16 women, a 3-day challenge really on emotional boundaries, learning about emotional boundaries, learning how to set those boundaries, learning how to maintain those boundaries, how to communicate those boundaries, the right way to say it so that they're heard. Because sometimes we're hurting because of what this other person is doing to us or what the person is saying to us, right? So some women, it's, you're dealing with verbal abuse, emotional abuse. Sometimes you're dealing with financial abuse, right? Because if you're dealing with a narcissistic person, they like to control the money. Their money is your money is their money, and their money is their money, right? They like to take control of the money, right? And so sometimes for some women, when you're dealing with that, it's hurtful. It's hurtful to see what happens, it's because it's unfair and things like that. So you have financial abuse. Some person dealing with spiritual abuse where they the narcissistic person is doing something that is not right, is hurting you, and when you speak up, they use scripture to throw at you, like to say, try to justify their behavior. How do you deal with that? And one of the things I was teaching the ladies is emotional boundaries, having emotional boundaries, setting that boundary that protects your emotions, protects you from the hurt and the pain, right? And sometimes we have an idea about it. Some persons don't know about emotional boundaries, and then some do know, but in setting it is how do you communicate it, because you said it, and sometimes these persons continue to disrespect your boundaries, breach the boundaries, disrespect the boundaries, as if they're not hearing what you're saying, or they're choosing not to hear, or they're choosing to ignore it or justify it or question it or devalue you and your boundaries, right? Some persons are dealing with that. So in that last session there, I was teaching how to communicate those boundaries, so that your boundaries are protected and so that your boundaries are respected. So that was a great 3 days. I know some of the women got feedback. Some of the ladies were saying needed more time. The time is too short and stuff like that. But they had some fun as we broke out into those groups and stuff and worked through and shared. And it's just so amazing to find out that you're not alone, that other persons have the same things that you're dealing with and you didn't even realize. So to be in a community with women who are going through the same things, but also finding those solutions is like just super awesome, right? Super awesome. So as I'm saying that, I'm planning to, because some persons that challenge, that 3-day challenge was held in the middle of the day, like from 1 p.m. Eastern time to 2:30 p.m. Meet for 90 minutes every day. And the feedback I got, some persons saying, I had to work, persons were at work in the middle of the day. And so there were so many, and there's persons who wanted to be on but choose not to join because it's in the middle of the work day. And I get it. I wanted to accommodate European people, right? People out in England who had, their hours are before. So as a result, I am running that challenge again at the end of this month. I think the first 3 days, it's going to be the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday evening, 7:30 p.m. Eastern on the December 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. December 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. I'll be running that 3-day challenge again on emotional boundaries. Emotional boundaries, okay? Learning what they are, how to set them, how to maintain them, how to communicate them, ensuring that they're respected. And then also I shared with women what to do if you notice it's not being respected. What do you do? But all so that you can get back your inner peace. So no matter what this person is doing, whatever they're saying, you're not going to be triggered by that, right? By what they say. Hi, I'm watching. Good night. Not going to be triggered by what they say. Okay. So tonight I wanted to talk about, guess what? Triggers. I want to talk about triggers tonight. We all have emotional triggers. I'm not talking about the triggers from a gun. Not talking but trigger of the gun, even though kind of like that's what goes on inside of us. Click, something happens, we see something, we hear something, we smell something, right? All of our senses, we touch something, and it's like if you pull the trigger and the gun, you're ready, set, right? You ready and pull back with your reactions. So we all have triggers, right? Triggers can be things like joy. There's something that maybe a place you go to, or something you heard, or a song you hear, and it brings joy. It just triggers on the inside of you, right? Could be sadness. I know for me, I'd like somehow be just as the year breaks and January comes around. You know, my son was killed in January, so the anniversary of his passing was is in January. At the beginning of the year, the first, 2nd of January, a sadness comes over me, even though I'm not thinking of it, even though I'm not thinking about him. It comes on, and then I notice I'm feeling sad. You know, I notice I'm feeling sad. And that's one of the things, you know, we have to learn to do is to be in tune with who we are, be in tune with our emotions, be in tune with our emotions. It's something is triggered inside of me. It's a warning. It's an alert signal. It's like an alert signal that something has happened, right? And so that happens to me. I get triggered from the beginning of the year. I get triggered from the beginning of the year. I have a friend, sister, some of you might know her, Sister Vern. She gets triggered sometimes before me. And she's texting, hey, it's January and I'm so sad and things like that, right? Because he was super close with her, like a son kind of thing, a brother to her daughters, right? So, I just, why? I want to keep looking at that. Sorry, guys. Okay. Sorry about that. That's just I was kind of monitoring the other because I'm streaming also over on, okay, there we go, on my YouTube channel as well. Okay. So, okay. All right, good. Yeah. So I get triggered with sadness. And even without me thinking about it, I get triggered. It just the time comes around and something just triggers me, right? Sometimes we get triggers for anger. We have an anger trigger. Somebody says something, they do something, we see something, they don't do something. You know, if you have kids, you know what an anger trigger is. If you have kids, you know what an anger trigger is. If you have teenagers, like I do, you know what an anger trigger is. And one is standing and I refuse to look up at his face. He is there, standing staring at me. I will not look up at their faces because when you have teenagers, you know what an anger trigger is, right? Either by what they do or what they don't do. Most times, it's what they don't do, right? At least in my case, it's what they don't know. Another one is standing right beyond my camera. Yeah, I'm telling the world. Yeah, we're not alone, right? I'm telling the world. You got teenagers, you're gonna have anger trigger, and it's by, in my case, it's what they don't do. Some people, it might be what they do, right? But something happens, and then something happens inside of us. So they do something externally, and something happens inside of us. We're in control of what goes on inside there, right? It's our emotions. Nobody else is in control of that. We're the ones in control of that. And so it's super important to get connected with that, right? We will have fear triggers. We walking and we hear probably a dog bark and something happens inside of us. We get triggered, right? We get triggered. Another one I have here is peace. You can get a peace trigger, a tranquil, something happens and you just, a peace just comes over you. Just a quiet and a calm comes over you. Maybe you go certain places. I know for me, if I go by water, I love water. I miss. You know what the thing I missed the most from Guyana, my country? Big on that speedboat, 6 o'clock in the morning on the Essequibo River, heading down to Charity. It is the most peaceful thing. It's like you're just sailing on a sheet of satin kind of thing, or velvet, just gliding through the water. And as you come, the birds are, kind of go off with a little song. But the sound of the engine of a speedboat on the Essequibo River at 6 a.m. in the morning, heading to, oh my goodness, peace, tranquility. I miss that so bad. Now, the other trigger, let me see which trigger I get when I'm coming back 4 o'clock and the tide is high. What trigger you think that might be? Who knows? Okay, hi guys. Lillian says, so true, right? If you've been on the Essequibo River and that speedboat, not the fancy boats they have around where I live now, that's just too much boat. But the speedboat, once you have 2 engines, I'm good, right? You got 2 engines. But coming back 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 4:30, heading to Parika, when the tide is doing tide, what trigger do I get? I know it results in a lot of prayer, but I don't know what trigger. I don't know that I'm usually afraid. There's a kind of thrill that I like, right? I'm not afraid, not afraid of it, right? But yeah, so you understand triggers. So if you even think about yourself, what is something maybe today that triggered you, which means your emotions shifted, emotions came up for you that you wasn't even activated. Like certain emotions get activated. Going or coming is fear trigger for me. Lillian, both? No, you're not going to enjoy it. Okay, we got to work on those triggers, that fear trigger. You need a tranquil peace trigger coming out of it, right? Yeah, so we get those triggers. Now, the thing that's super important, the other trigger that I had here that I wanted to share is the shame trigger. The shame trigger. Something happens and shame is triggered. Shame is activated. Shame, embarrassed. Things happen. But when you check it, sometimes it's things we do to ourselves, right? Things we do, we mess up or whatever, and we're so embarrassed and we're ashamed. We did it ourselves, right? But learning to laugh at yourself is a cool thing. It's a super cool thing, right? You mess up, you just laugh, and you're not the only person that mess up. You're not the only one, not the first, not the last, and you're not the only one. It's something that humans do, right? But then there are things that persons do to us that can trigger shame, right? Trigger shame. And all these things, the shame, the fear, the anger, the peace, the joy, the sadness and stuff, they happen inside of us, and we're responsible for those emotions. Sometimes we kind of try to blame other people, say that other person caused this thing inside of me. No, we're in control of that. And what happens, the trigger inside of us is something that was deposited back in our lives. It come true from childhood, it come true from past experiences, and it's in there. If nothing is in there to be triggered, there's no trigger to pull, there's nothing to connect, no button to press inside of us, those emotions, especially the negative emotions, will not get activated. There must be a button to activate them, right? And the buttons are our past experiences, past trauma, past memories, past things that happen. That's what's in there. And so sometimes persons may try to tell you get over stuff, or people have all kinds of judgment, all kinds of things about it, right? But it's something that you have to learn how to process. Those emotions don't make you a bad person. If, for example, anger is triggered, what you do can make you, be labeled a bad person. The Bible says what? Be angry. So it's okay to be angry. It's okay to experience, but sin not, right? So these things can come up. The key for you, if you're looking for that peace, that inner peace, and not be so triggered, is to understand yourself. Understand yourself. Recognize those triggers and know that you are not your emotions. You are not your thoughts. You're not your emotions. Okay? Our thoughts, what are we thinking because of what happened, what we experienced, whatever we're thinking will now determine our emotions. It go know which button to press because there's a button there. And then our emotions determine our actions, what we choose what to do. So we're in control of what's going on inside of us. And it's so super important to get in touch with that. It's a sign of kind of maturity, emotional maturity, one. And if you're a believer, follow Christ, it will lead spiritual maturity as well. How we deal when we are triggered and emotions are activated inside of us. Some persons will act out. Some persons will act out either with their mouth or with their hands or whatever, right? Or with their physical body, whatever, act out. Some persons go inward and pull back and withdraw. All of that comes back from your childhood. All that comes from childhood. How you were programmed, right? How you handle emotional pain, how you understand your emotional pain. All that comes from there. And so, super important is learning our triggers and also learning what trigger us, learning the things that trigger us. So when somebody triggers, so say for example, you're dealing with somebody who's verbally abusive, they'll say things, either criticize you or condemn you or their words, or they're going off or whatever. You get triggered on the inside. The natural human thing is to react, say something. We may quarrel back or argue back or say a lot of stuff and all that, and then it just fuels the whole thing. And you end up feeling so terrible on the inside. Because probably you acted out a character, that's not who you want to be, or stuff like that. Okay. And so the key is when you're emotionally mature or maturing, and you're able to recognize the emotion that's happening inside my body, you kind of in a way disconnect and from the person who is saying what they're saying and doing what they're doing, acting how they're acting, and checking with yourself. You are the important one. My emotions are what's important. It's not worth it to have anger and all the stuff and your blood pressure is going up. Because I tell you what, especially those all emotions affect us, the body, right? But the negative ones lead to all kind of chronic illnesses and diseases. Pain in the body, chronic pain, chronic headache, this, that. You might hear me say before, hair thinning out, hair dropping out, migraine, blood pressure high, your skin go funny, like, dry, stomach pain, tummy pain, gripes, back pain, shoulder pain, neck pain. All of these things come from the embodiment of all those negative emotions and because you're going through traumatic experiences. When you deal with somebody who's carrying on and they're mouthing off and they're going on and on, it's traumatic. It's trauma. It's trauma. And so take care of you. You're important. They're carrying on, yes, but learn how to think about yourself in the moment. What is this doing to me? Think about myself in the moment. All right. Anybody land? Is this landing with anybody? Hi. Oh, blessing. Hi, Joyanne. Hi, Margaret. Thanks you guys for watching. Okay. Is this landing with you? Are you triggered? What as I was sharing the different kinds of triggers, which trigger came to mind that happens to you, but you really don't process it well because you don't know how to process it, right? Which trigger do you get? Do you get fear trigger, easily afraid of something, or something is said, or so shame, sadness, joy? What's your trigger? What gets triggered for you? Doesn't make you a bad person. There's a shame trigger. Which button for you is easily accessible? Drop a comment for me. If you know what I'm talking about, your triggers. Okay, easy accessible. And I tell you what, the enemy knows, Satan knows our triggers. He knows those buttons and he will press those buttons. The enemy knows those buttons and he will use the persons around us. He'll use our abusers. He'll use the persons who choose to hurt us to press those buttons, especially when You press the button, and when it's triggered, it dims you, downs you, put you down. You pull back in a corner, you go quiet, you're crying, you're sobbing. Oh my, they're gonna come for that button again. Come for that button again. Okay? The enemy knows your buttons, and he knows how to pull that trigger and to cause you to stay in that state. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. Be conscious now of the these triggers. And most of these triggers come from trauma, like I said earlier. Trauma in childhood, trauma, teenage year trauma, adult trauma, things that you go through and they're triggered. I remember after my son died, for a while, I was so easily triggered. You watch if anybody has suffered the death, nobody has the same son. Nobody had my Ryan, right? But you might have had experienced that. You watch the news, and every young man who was around that age that got into trouble or died, or you see that thing, oh my goodness, it was such a trigger. All that pain will come back up again as it's like fresh when you watch the news. I still get triggered now, but the trigger is not as strong, and it didn't control me as much. At the beginning, I didn't know anything, about emotional, checking in with my emotions in that way. I didn't understand triggers. So it comes and it takes over your life, and it just controls you in a big way. I had to learn how to, I was at work at the time, and so I had to ask for time out. Just give me a few minutes. I'm having a moment, and step aside as the tears just flow. Sometimes it's not, it's somebody else. And I remember one time I was traveling somewhere, and I was waiting for a flight. It was early morning, and like about 7, 8. And I'm sitting there waiting, and then they have these young men, professional people who travel with their work. And so people probably getting to work or something like that. And this young man came and sat down like 2 rows ahead of me in the waiting area, waiting for the flight to get seated, right? Waiting to load the flight. And he sat down there. And all it was the color of his skin and the muscles of his shoulder. And I lost it, triggered with the sadness and the pain, right? Just the memory. I sat in that airport, the tears were flowing down. People probably want to know what happened to me, but I learned I don't care. Everybody cries. Everybody cries, right? Don't you? Don't you cry? Yeah. So I learned that I was not, thing by it. Another thing that happened, I remember, I met with a friend, and we went to a restaurant, and it was a Spanish restaurant. And we ordered, and the guy who came to serve us, we were chatting, we sit in the cubicle and we talking away. And this young man who came up to serve after, we placed our order and we waiting. When I looked up, he had the same height as my son, the same complexion, because he's Spanish, he kind of buck, the kind of round buck face he had, brown skin, same complexion, same size face, same body, shoulder. I lost it in the restaurant. Triggered just by the sight and connecting it with a memory, right? And connecting with a memory. But over time, I will see persons, but I'm not, the trigger's not that strong. And because I get to understand what it is. So if there's stuff happening with you, you went through stuff, whatever happened in your life, things will happen. You'll see things on social media, you'll see things on just a memory. Sometimes just a color of clothes or just something, and sometimes for you, the person hasn't died, the person is right there, you see them and you trigger. Pay attention when your body, something inside my body has shifted, and that's okay, because it's human to have a reaction, right? It's human. Give it time and it will fade. This will pass, right? Be patient with yourself. When you learn how to do that, how to connect with your emotions, you have more compassion on yourself. You would love yourself more. You can be patient with yourself. Give yourself that time out, and you pass through it. sometimes you may want to pray, say, Lord, help me through this. But trust me, the human body will pass. But don't let it be the thing that you use, that emotion, to make a decision what you will do. Right? If my mind goes to people who will be quick to, like, something happen on social media or whatever happened, you're quick to block this body and block that body, and people do that. Now, if this person is doing something that repeatedly is causing you fresh pain and fresh pain and fresh pain, and you want to do that, you do that to protect yourself, because you need to heal. If we don't protect ourselves from people and from the pain that they're causing us, how are you going to heal when they're hitting at that emotional wound over and over, right? So we need to protect ourselves. But monitor yourself, know yourself, pay attention to yourself. You're not your emotions. You are a child of God. You are God's daughter. You are a daughter of the Most High God, and you have emotions, and you have thoughts, and you are thinking something that caused you to feel that way. Another thing to do is, you feeling a certain way, check back. What was I thinking? What is I see? Just know what caused you to get the trigger. And so you can recognize now the sources of your triggers, right? And don't empower them anymore. The more you can recognize them and say, okay, I see you. I know what you're going to do. Yes, I'm feeling this way, this. The more you can be that way about it, is the easier you see it's going to just stop. They get fed up pressing the button. They get fed up pressing the button. So if you are in a difficult relationship, you're in a hurtful relationship, that person knows. Those people know your button, and they will press it. And they will press it. And they will press it. And the more you cry and the more you beg and they will press it. But the day that they press that button and get no response, or don't experience the response, meaning you go to the bathroom or someone have your response, the day they press the button and don't get the satisfaction of what they've been getting all along, trust me, they will stop pressing the button. They wonder if something is wrong. Yes, something is wrong, because I disconnect the button from the behind the wall. I disconnect the button. I clip the cord to the back of the button. So you keep pressing. Press. There's no cord at the back of the button going inside of me, right? So learn how to do that for yourselves, okay? Learn how you do that for yourselves. And I was saying, fold in and go on and move on. What do you mean? Fold in and move on. Okay. Yeah. I think I might get what you mean. Like, kind of don't get stuck there in that place, but make sure you're processing your emotions. You're processing your emotions. And that's one of the things I teach. I was teaching the ladies last week, learning how to process your emotions, right? Learning how to process your emotions. One of the ways of doing that is writing journals. I was preparing a link. I'm going to pop it on my page again, a link where you can go and download. I have 5 tips for how you can use journal prompts to process your emotions, right? That's something I'm going to be posting. Just look out for it. I'm going to be posting that for you guys. Okay. And this is my reaction to a trigger, is to, they say, fold in and move on. Okay. All right. But just make sure that we're processing our emotions, right? Don't bury them or ignore them, because that's when it comes up into all kinds of things in our bodies. Hi, Yonette. Yay, long time no see you, girl. Thank you. Thank you for hopping on in. Yes. So let's make sure we process those emotions, what's going on inside of us, because sometimes I know of myself at times when I got so angry hearing some kind of verbal abuse, so angry that I just swell up in the inside. But because of Jesus, I say, I'm not going to say anything, but you just bury it and suppress it. Eventually I went into depression. Eventually I was not, my brain wasn't processing anything. Depression, and just walking around, like I said, like zombie, just doing what to do, but mentally not processing things like I used to, right? And that came from suppressing your emotions, just holding it down, saying, I'm not going to say anything, thinking that, okay, I'm holding, for peace sake, I'm not going to engage, so this thing will stop, right? But it may stop, but then I still didn't know at that time about how to process, what to do with my emotions. All I did was bury them, bury it, hold it down, say nothing, go quiet, don't speak, don't say anything, to save myself, I thought. But it backfired on my body. Okay, it backfired on my body. So be careful with that. Be careful with that, so that you don't ever process. Okay, you don't ever process. If you want to learn about processing emotions, stuff like that, look out, get on, get in. As soon as I post, I'm going to post tomorrow. Get into that next challenge that I'm having. It's a challenge workshop. It's really, really good, and it's eye-opening, and it helps, we go through an assessment to identify me, who I am, and certain things. Then you see how it contributes to the way we handle emotional issues. Because I'll tell you what, PTSD is real. Post-traumatic stress disorder is real. It's not just the people who go to war. They have that trauma, but the same kind of reactions, because it's human beings. We have it too when we go through, traumatic experiences. We have it too. PTSD is super real. If you know what PTSD, I never talked about it. I mean, I'm not a licensed therapist or psychologist. I am a certified life coach. We do learn and we process. I've been trained to process emotions, trained to process trauma responses, and help people to get unstuck from those things, right? But when the trauma is very deep and there is PTSD strong, we recommend that persons get therapy, because therapy is, licensed and trained to do that. But a coach who is trauma informed can also help. Okay, can also help. But what I say to you is, let us make our emotional wellness real and common and everyday for everybody. Our culture, I know, would think going to a therapist, going to a psychologist is because you're crazy, or you lose your mind, or you're a mad man or a mad woman. No, that's not true. By the time you get there, you're too late. Okay, it's too late. It's like waiting until the blood sugar is 500 and something before you go to the doctor. No, you want to be checking early and, treating and taking the corrective steps and stuff. Same thing with our mental health. Same thing with our mental health. And a lot of us have gone through trauma, childhood and teenage. Never processed, right? But then it shows up and it kind of could mess up our relationships and things like that. Okay. So how does some of it show up? The feelings of anger, anxiety, people getting anxiety. Anxiety is so prevalent in these times, I could say. The memories that come up for you, things happening in your body, you feeling abandoned, feeling lonely, feeling vulnerable, frustration, sadness, check for pain or muscle tension in your shoulders and pain in your body that you can't explain. Nobody hit you there, you didn't get beat up there, but then there's this pain here, pain that. And we just got to be careful, because sometimes folks think, oh, because you're a certain age. I've heard people say that. With age, pain comes, and so it's this acceptable thing. And so, come on, check in and see if it's because of what you went through, right? The emotional things and the issues that you went through. Okay, and just look to see what is it around. If it's an anniversary, if it's a certain smell, maybe somebody, and you smell a certain perfume, you're walking past somebody, you smell different things, right? Check to see. But the thing is, check with what's going on inside of you. Have I shifted? How am I feeling? In the middle of the day, just chilling. What's it I'm feeling now? But when you get an uncomfortable feeling, definitely check in. Definitely check in. So as I feeling anything uncomfortable, Holy Spirit, what's this? Why am I feeling this way? Sometimes I just check myself. What happened? Why am I feeling this? You just get a feeling, and be able to identify it, and then you can connect and see what's, oh, That's where it comes from. Oh, that's what press my button. Okay. Maybe it's something you got to pray about. Maybe it's something you want to talk about. Maybe it's something you're going to journal and write about, but get it out of your system. Get it out of your system. Find a trusted person. Find help. Don't try to just process everything on your own. Okay? Don't try to process everything on your own. It's too much to carry. And then some things you can't even recognize it. You don't even know what it is, until somebody points it out to you. You don't even realize that this is what's happening, right? So talking with somebody and getting unstuck. Okay. Good night, Shelly. Hi, guys. Yeah. Yonet said, what? Yonet said, Mom just passed, buried last week, Thursday, and I'm depressed. Hey, Yonet, please call me. Please call me. Yonet and her mom, we lived directly opposite each other in South Ramville when I was younger, and my son directly straight across. We look into each other's houses. And so I know her mom super well. I know her mom well. I am so sorry. Condolences to the family, but please, please call me, because yes, you will be depressed. A lot of emotions, and I don't want to be thing. It takes years, years, because the memory is going to be there, but eventually over time, the memory comes with less pain, unless it's not as very sad, but it's different. Every year as you go through, it's different. But then eventually you get beautiful memories coming up of the person. When you remember them, remember beauty. But I don't tell them it's not next year, sister. Janet, it's not next year. It's not the next 2 years. It's years. Anybody can be honest with you will tell you it's years. But learning how to process when the emotions come is like super important. So please call me. Hook me up on Messenger, okay? Yeah. Oh, Adele, remember her mom too? Yeah. Yeah, they live the Alkins. If anybody from Guyana back in the day, her uncle had I think her dad too, right? In Border Market had some stalls selling fabric and different things, the Alkins. Yes, yes. Please call me. Okay, please call me. Awesome. So yeah, that's sad. Yeah, you see me now, my body, I can feel a shift, and I'm feeling sadness because I know her, and I go back, I'm feeling sadness, and that's so human. All these emotions are human experiences, and we just have to yeah, yeah. Okay. Alrighty. So, guys, that's what I wanted to share with you tonight. Your emotions, getting in touch with them, recognizing, knowing how to handle them, how to manage them. And if you have to set boundaries because somebody is just breaching and coming and hurting and damaging your emotions, learning how to do that and how to communicate it, how to share it with others. Okay. So that they respect it. So respect what you're saying. It's all in our language and the words we use. Okay. So, I look forward to talking with you on it. And also share with you guys. So look out for December 1st, 2nd, 3rd. I'm going to be running that challenge workshop again. It's all on emotional boundaries. It's all about you, making you better. And if before I go, let me say this. If you're dealing with a narcissistic person, they love to destroy holidays. They will make holidays sad. Everything will be, you're planning going along, and they will disrupt something. There's something about them that don't like to see the joy and the happiness with some people, right? And in particularly you who close to them, and they will spoil that holiday in some way. Rather than you not being able to control your emotions and know how to handle it, you can prepare ahead of time to have a beautiful holiday, no matter what they do, right? You can prepare ahead of time how to have that. And so if you can jump onto that challenge, I'm going to be opening it up for persons to get on and start registering, get in, hold your seat, grab your seat, okay? And it's going to be December 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 7:30 p.m., okay? It's going to be an evening session thing so that more persons can get in and just have a better life and a beautiful life, the life that God designed for you. Okay. So that's it for tonight, guys. Thank you for hanging out with me. Again, you can just share if there's something in here you think of somebody, as I was talking, somebody who could benefit from hearing about this. Please share these videos with them, like it so that Facebook and YouTube will share it with more women online, and we will touch lives. You can touch lives through me. You can use through me. God is going to use whoever, right? Because there's a woman out there who is in pain, who is suffering, who is hurting, who is crying, who's fed up, who don't know what else to do, but she can just need to hear something, right? She just needs to hear a word of encouragement tonight. And so thank you for being here. Bye. Have a great night, guys. Okay, bye-bye.